What's up guys, Vinny here bringing you my 4-2-3-1 formation guide. As you've seen, I have already done the 4-4-2 formation guide and as I mentioned in the previous video, we're going to be going through these different formations week by week. If I change a few custom tactics, you'll see a custom tactic video instead of a formation guide, depending on what I have coming up for like uploads and whatnot. But this week we'll be doing the 4-2-3-1 formation guide. I know a lot of people like this sort of type of video from myself because I explain to you what works and maybe from me, and then maybe what could work for you guys and why these things could work for your different styles of play. So what I say about the 4-2-3-1, it is very structured. I think that's the best word to use. It's very like basic with how the team will play. Your players will always play in the position it shows on the screen. It will never really differ from anything too dramatic, where you see like the narrow, maybe your left centre mid and your cam swap quite often or something like that. Your shape of your team will always change, but the 4-2-3-1, it will always stay this way. You've got the back line of 4, 2 CDMs in front of them, and then obviously the 3 cams and a striker. This tactic, well not this tactic, this formation is really good for counter-attack play, possession play, and I do see a few blitzers, like fast-paced players use this, but I think if you're going to go for a more fast-paced like style, I think a 4-4-2 will probably suit you a little bit better, but a 4-4-2 or narrow is probably usually what would suit you a little bit better if you're quicker at play. And I think 4-2-3-1's really like, it's kind of like a structured, as I mentioned, structured, smart. You take your time and attack and whatnot. It can become quite boring. I know a lot of people don't really like playing 4-2-3-1 due to it's so basic and there's no movement, like dramatic movements within attack. But let's get into obviously defense styles. As we all know, there's balance, drop back, pressure on heavy touch, press after possession loss, and constant pressure. It's very basic. I think with 4-2-3-1, I think if you're playing champs and you're wanting to get results, drop back and balance are your best ones to go to. Between, I would say, 4 and 5 depth. I wouldn't go straight off the bat with pressure on heavy touch or press after possession loss, due to you are playing for risk if you play them type of styles, due to they are that at the end of the day they're pressing them. You're going to be getting players probably pushed out of position because you're trying to win the ball back quicker rather than having quite a structured team and winning the ball back. I've said structured about a million times already this video, so if I mention the same words over and over, it's because maybe it's just I'm trying to emphasize it a little bit more, but you get the idea. What is pressure on heavy touch and press after possession loss? If you are more of an attacking style player, as I mentioned with 4-3-3-1, there is a few different styles you can go ahead and use press after possession loss. I'm not saying if you play pressure on heavy touch and possession loss you're going to lose. That's not the case, because you could be very good with these sort of styles. Go what makes you comfortable. If you are going to use these styles, I once again mentioned 4 or 5 depth, unless you're like obviously behind, then you want to up these depths later on in the game and whatnot. But 4 or 5 depending on your style. If you want to have like a quick pacey style, pressure on heavy touch is a really good one, because your team still stays fairly like tight, but it will pounce on the opportunity if there is a loose touch and whatnot. So I do recommend using heavy touch or even possession loss if you want to win that ball back quickly and whatnot. But that is obviously the different defense styles you can have. With width, it varies. I wouldn't say you need to go 6, due to you have Ram and Lambs. They are going to naturally come back and help you in defense, so you don't need to have like a wider team, because you're naturally going to have a wider team from the shape of your team when they come back and like help you defend. So a 5 and maybe even a 4. Personally, I've been using 4 at the moment. I'm finding it quite useful, because how people are scoring this game, they go into their strikers, and if you have quite a compact team, you're compact in the middle, and obviously you're going to be vulnerable on the wide, but not many people usually use the wide, because if they try and cut back, the AI is crazy at the moment. The AI will still intercept them and just make it, fling it up into your attack. So having quite a compact team, and obviously unifying the finesse shots and the like ping into a striker, turn, shoot, it will make that more compact and a bit harder for your opponent to obviously get through that. As I mentioned with depth, you can obviously change this depending on your different styles, but I would always recommend between 4 and 5. If you're obviously like losing and you want to get a quick goal, between 7 and 8 is usually the sweet spot. Obviously, you depend on your pressure and whatnot. But for me, if you want to know what I do, if I'm losing by a couple of goals, I'll go constant pressure, team press, attacking wing backs. I literally just ramp this up. I go to about a 7, so I'm quite wide. But as you know, that obviously there's risk of that because you might concede, you might not, score the goals you want. You're gonna probably score. You're gonna try and score, obviously, but you're gonna be so vulnerable at the back. You're literally left with two defenders because of the attacking wing backs. Going into offensive style, as I mentioned, this style is more suited for possession style players and maybe a little bit more structured like attackers, not fast paced styles. I know a few players like Kurt uses this, Stokes uses this. Obviously there's a few unreal players. Tex used it all last year, so it's really useful for counter attacks. Like, as if you've watched Kurt's style play, he is very counter attack based. He loves the going quick, free passes, and he's through, and he's making you turn your defenders and obviously getting a goal, wherever it may be. But I would say, depending on your style, balance is usually the way to go, because you can have, I always say this about balance, you have the best of everything. You have, you can go quick and you can go tight, you can play possession, whatever it may be. Depending on the situation of the game, you might want to vary this, because maybe last 20 you want your team to be a little bit more tight. You don't want them runs behind the defense. You want them to be coming close, doing 1-2, drawing in their defenders, and then playing down the wings and whatnot. So yeah, you can obviously go balance. Personally, I use possession, as I've gone for more of a slower pace style game, mainly because sometimes with this gameplay, when it's so slow, you can't try and do these things quick. So that is obviously the different styles I'm using. You can use fast build up. I know a pro stranger used it last year. I still am fully against fast build up and long ball. I think your team they fly up, and you can't like pass out of bad situations because all your players are up on like in the attack, and you can't. Let's say if somebody presses you with your centre back, you won't have your right back option there because of your attacking styles. Obviously, depending on the score and whatnot, you might want them to be pushed up and it'll be a little bit harder. But you're probably trying to move the ball a little bit quicker. But let's say if the game's 0-0 and you're trying to hold the ball, and like try and make them bring out players, you're not going to want that fast build up, because your right back and your left back are going to be up here, and your two centre backs are going to be here. I don't know, you can't even see that, but you're basically on the screen, as you'll see, that you got your two centre backs here. Your right back and left back will be at the halfway line, and it will just be a difficult situation, really. Width also, it's a bit of a weird one with 4-2-3-1. I'm noticing that the team is naturally very wide. With the 5 width, it is super wide, and if you're a possession player, having like a wide team is quite nice. It's quite, you can break down players, play down the wing, then come back inside. You stretch your opponent, especially when everyone's using the part of the bus. It's a little bit easier for you to break them apart, because you're obviously making them bring maybe the right centre back over or the left centre back over to help on the wings, where if you're just playing through the middle, it's going to be very compact through it and whatnot. But width, I would say you could even lower it down. If you, like, as I said, if you're a little bit quicker, maybe you could lower this width to like a 3 or 4. You play quite a compact like attack, and you just literally fly. You're going to it'll be quite useful, I think. So personally, I'm using, I think, 5 at the moment. I just usually keep it quite basic because the team width is quite natural, wide and whatnot. Players in the box, you can obviously mix around and whatnot. What I noticed though, with the 2 CDMs, they don't really help you in the attack, and a lot of you will see my custom tactics. I use balance on my CDMs a lot because I want them to help me in attack. With this player in the box edition, you can obviously go up to about a 7 or a 6. Play one of your CDMs on like balance, and then have the other one stay back. So you're a little bit more structured in defense, but you also got that little help in attack. So that's what, like a little tip there. Maybe you have one balance, one defensive, mix around with it depending on your playstyle. If you want to be a little bit slow, maybe having them 2 CDMs helping you might not be the best thing. Maybe you want them in position all the time so you're not getting counter attacked and whatnot. But I would usually say between 4, 5, 6, 7, between them numbers are always good. We'll start with obviously the right back, and then we'll move up into the team. Keeper we don't touch at all. Attacking runs, with 4-2-3-1, as I mentioned, you've got your width in attack. You don't really need your right back and left back bombing forward. Unless you're an attacking player and you like to have more players in the box, more numbers in the attack, because you want to obviously ping it around a little bit quicker, go ahead and use balance. Don't use joining the attack. You're going to be super vulnerable on the counter. Personally, I'm using stay back. I hate the fact that I can be countered super quick. Even when this game is so slow and whatnot, I can still be countered super quick. So I do recommend having that stay back. and so you're a little bit more structured in defense. I said structured, but I wonder if one of you can count how many times I said structured in this video. It'll be nuts. I reckon it'd be like 16, 17. Going into the CDMs, we've got different options here. You've got man mark, cut pass, and stay back, get forward, drop between the defenders, cover wing, and cover center. The most important one out of these styles is the cover center. This is because, as I mentioned, a lot of people come through the middle. You want them to be covering the middle of the pitch rather than the wide of the pitch. You've got your right back, you've got left back, you've got your ram, you've got your lamb. You don't need any more help really on the wide. You can naturally bring over these CDMs to help. Just if you click on them, obviously you switch to them and then you bring them over. You need them to naturally be more in the middle, tighter, so then you can if you want to be a little bit more aggressive on the wide, then bring over your CDM, try and do different traps and whatnot. But I definitely recommend putting cover center on. You can obviously mess around with all this stuff. As I mentioned, stay back on one of your CDMs and then the other one quite balanced. It's usually quite a nice mix together. You can obviously put cut passing lanes. I think cut passing lanes is really good this year because, as I mentioned, AI interceptions seem to still be very crazy. Like if you put a player fairly close and then switch off and then try and press the ball, and they play that passing lane what you've covered originally, that guy will probably get that interception. It is crazy to me how overpowered it still is, especially when they mentioned that AI have been nerfed and all this stuff. It hasn't, because these blocks I'm seeing is still crazy. It is a little bit less than last year, but for me, still a little bit too much. But yeah, as I mentioned, you can have both stay back, you can have one balance, one not, you can have both unbalanced. I wouldn't recommend drop in between defenders. I'm not really a fan of that this year. I think if you're trying to be really scummy and you want to hold a lead, that could be the way, but I really don't think that is a good tactic. Let's say if you're trying to do super drop back, bro, you could probably put these drop between the defenders. You literally got, what's that, a 6 back? Jesus Christ. And then put these, everyone come back. Oh my god, the team would be so deep in defensive. That'd be disgusting to play against. Do not do that. If I ever play in weekly, do not put that tactic on, because I will probably go crazy. But do not even try it. It won't be effective. If you're trying to hold out a lead for the last 5, it might be useful, but apart from that, it will not be any good. With the cams, a lot of pros keep this fairly basic, whatever they come as. A lot of people like putting stay forward on their middle cam, so when you're coming out of defense, it's easier to get at through the middle rather than wide, because a lot of times they got their right back and left back quite tight to your wingers. You can go through the middle and then play your wingers down the wing. Obviously trigger your runs with the L1 and RB, whatever you want to do, and then from there you can obviously do a few different things from down wide. So yeah, a lot of people put stay forward. Personal preference, I put balance, and then obviously on the Rams and Lambs you can have balance, you can have get in the box. I know that was a big thing last year. If you played a lot of FIFA 19, you'll know get in the box was super important. They still do similar runs this year with get in the box, but crossing's not as effective. But you can do these low driven crosses with RBS across the field, and if you've got a good eye for the back post runs, they are very effective to use. So obviously the cam is basic, as I mentioned. You can obviously, there's other options. Stay on the edge is quite nice as well. If you've got maybe, let's say you see I've got Neymar there, Neymar, Messi, I'm trying to think of Ben Yedder. Having that option to stay on the edge of the box is probably a little bit better, because you'll have that cut back always to the edge, and then because they're so good at shooting and their shot is a bit overpowered, let's be honest, you're going to probably find the back of the net, because you're going to have a nice angle from the cut back, a little touch, whatever way you want to go, finesse it, power shot, whatever you may do. It's quite a nice addition. So mess around with that, see if you like that. Personally, I'm doing actually that. I forgot to mention that. Stay on the edge of the box for crosses. I am using different options for your striker. You can obviously have drift wise, stay central, and balance. I think balance is probably the best, because you get, as I mentioned, usually with balance, you get the best of both worlds. Sometimes you do want them to give you an option down the wing though, because it's getting a little bit too many people on you when you're on your ram. If you have that attacking run from your striker, they're going to basically push the defense backwards, because obviously they're going to be more focused on their striker run, because it's more an advanced run, so that's their main focus. So you're going to create some more space for that. So maybe drift wide, stay central, as I mentioned. You can do all sorts there. 2 options really to mention here is getting behind or balance with attacking runs. You don't want to be too I think target man and false 9 is not really needed, to be honest. You want their striker to be making them down runs. As I mentioned, when you have balanced or getting behind on these, you want their plan as your striker is to make their team go deeper. Even though it sounds bad because you don't want to be attacking a deep line, but it will help you create space down the in their final third. Right? But yeah, as I was saying, target man and false nine is just not it, man. You want these guys to be basically, as a youngster when you're trying to improve, obviously as a player, your manager's get their fullbacks, get their defenders turning, them balls down the line and whatnot. That's the plan of this striker, is to get them fullbacks, centre backs, whatever it may be, basically worried about them passes down the line because they are so still effective. We've got the fast players up front and whatnot. But yeah, that'll be it for the 4-2-3-1 formation guide. Hope you guys have liked this video. Let me know what formation you want to see next. I believe the 4-2-2 was requested, and also, was it 3-5-2? I'm not too sure. I mentioned that I was going to do a 3-5-2, but I'm pretty sure I saw 4-2-2 definitely recommended. So that'll probably be next week, unless we hit a 30-0 this weekend, and that'll be my custom tactic videos. But top 100 is looking a little bit of a mess, which I will talk a little bit about when it comes to rewards on Thursday and Friday. But yeah, that'll be it for the video, guys. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and peace.